So here we are. Well, Shavua Tov, everyone, and we're at chapter 4. Chapter 4 kind of breaks from the previous 3 chapters in a very simple manner. Number one, it's written a little bit differently also if you look at it from a writer's perspective, but also in terms of our main character. Who's our main character? Samuel, right? The book is called Shmuel, Samuel. Okay, and what happens? We're going to hear about him in the first little part of this chapter, and then suddenly we don't hear from him until, if I'm not mistaken, it's, I believe, chapter 7 or chapter 8. So for a couple of chapters, suddenly he's not in it. Not because he's forgotten, but it describes what was going on at that time, which was there was a conflict between the Israelites and Plishtim and the Philistines. It was a battle that raged for around 20 years or so. That there was this conflict, and at the end, you'll see that and this conflict will go over a couple of chapters. So today we'll be introduced to this conflict, and then later on we'll see where Shmuel fits in, but that will only be in a couple of chapters. So we did not change books. If you don't, except for once, you'll see Shmuel's name in this chapter. It is because that is what happens. I'll quickly give you a little bit of a synopsis what happens. So Israel amasses an army to fight against the Philistines. However, the first round of fighting doesn't go well for the Israelites, and so the elders decide that what they will do is they're going to go call the Ark of the Covenant from Shiloh. They do that. At first, both sides have different views on it. The Israelites are delighted. They believe there's nothing that the Philistines can do. The Philistines are actually totally bewildered. They don't know what they should do. They know of the stories that happened in Egypt, etc. However, they muster up enough courage to go up and fight against the Israelites. And what happens stuns both sides. Should I tell you what happens?
Nope.
Yeah or no?
No.
No.
Capture the Ark.
So let's wait to see what happens until there. But it bewilders both sides, and from there is an evolution into the next couple of chapters, and the real center of the story ends up being the Ark of the Covenant, which we will soon learn how that comes into play. So without further ado, chapter 4 of Samuel 1, Shmuel Aleph. Vahi dvar Shmuel lechol Israel. And so Shmuel declares and has a word. He prophesizes, and he tells the Israelites something. What? Vayetze Israel likrat Plishtim lamilchama. And so Israel marched out to engage the Philistines in battle. Vayachanu al ha'even ha'ezer. And they encamped near Even Ezer, Uflishtim chanu va'afek, and the Philistines encamped in a city called Afek. Does anybody have any idea where these places are?
No,
No.
Okay, so let's
no idea.
look. Where is here we go. No, where is where is my? Does anybody see what's on the do you see the maps?
Nope.
No.
No.
All right.
There is no maps.
So let's see. That's so strict. Okay, I know what. Let's see now. Everybody sees it now?
No.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay,
Now we
so
have
let's look at the colorful map on the left-hand side. If you look on the left-hand side, you'll see very clearly right here. Okay, this Plishtim.
Yeah.
Okay, that's the area where we had various nations living around. We had Ammon, we had Moab, we have Edom, we have Amalek down here as well. And up on top there's another. Here is where the Plishtim live. Okay, it's a very rough. There's no we don't have the exact location, but roughly it surrounds the area of where Gaza is now. If anybody the Gaza Strip is somewhere like here.
But it goes as far north as, excuse my, it goes as far north as Ashkelon.
Yeah, it goes further than that. It almost goes not quite to where Tel Aviv is, but it goes quite up. It goes quite up north. If you look, I mean, further
Towards Rehoboth, yeah.
Okay, so you see it's quite up much larger than Gaza Strip. That's nothing to do with that's Palestinians. This is Plishtim, nothing to do with one another. Although it sounds familiar, but it's not. Regardless, there's going to be a conflict with this region right here. And if you want to look a little bit on the right-hand side, it's a little bit of a bigger map, and we will shortly return to it as we will see kind of the different places. So in verse 1, the Israelites are in here, if you want to see actually.
Afek.
Where is it?
Not in Afek. Actually, in Afek is where the Plishtim are gonna be but they are, let me see here. They are going to Ebenezer. Do you see it on the little map?
Yep.
So just very close, in other words, somewhere near Afek, and they're going to be engaging in war.
Yep.
All right. If you want to see where it is on the colorful map, it's hard to see, but I will note it. It's kind of somewhere here. Do you see it? Afek.
Yep.
Okay.
What does that tell you? Where Afek is with regards to proper Israel, like then?
Well, it's in Ephraim.
Right. So if the Plishtim were able to encamp here, which is definitely
They had to get through either Dan or through Judah, one or the other.
right. So in other words, by that time when this conflict is taking place, there has been other conflicts before. And Plishtim actually already conquered or took over some lands, and now they're all the way up to somewhere like here. You know, this is now they reach here, so they clearly have extended, and now we're in middle of this. This is not quite at the beginning, but this is the first confrontation that the Israelites decide, hey, let's battle back. Okay, let's push them back to where they're supposed to be. Let's push them where they don't belong. All right, so roughly this is where it's taking place. Okay.
Yep.
So let's stop sharing. Let's share again. And here we go. Okay.
Yeah.
So we saw where the Israelites are in Ebenezer, which literally means the rock of help. And they are in Afek. Later on, we will actually find out. Sometimes the story, it's not chronological, but they tell you where it was, even though the name technically still has not been named yet. I know it sounds funny, but later on we will find out why it's called Ebenezer. And so the Israelites come to Ebenezer. The Plishtim are in Afek. Plishtim likurat Israel, and the Philistines arrayed themselves against Israel. Vatitosh milchama, and a war broke out. Vaynagef Israel lifnei Plishtim, vayaku v'ma'aracha basadeh ke'arbat alafim ish. And Israel was routed by the Philistines, who slew about 4,000 men on the field. So first battle doesn't go so well for the Israelites, and they lose 4,000 men. So they retreat, and the Israelite troops return back to camp. Israel, and the elders of Israel cried out, Lama nagafu Adonai hayom lifnei Plishtim. Why did the Lord put upon us such a rout today by the Philistines? And then they had this idea. Nikcha elenu mishilo et Aron Brit Adonai. Let's go to Shiloh and bring the covenant, the Brit Hashem, which is the Aron, which is the Ark of Covenant. Ve'avo ve'kirbenu, and it shall be in our midst. Ve'yoshi'enu mikaf oivenu, and it will deliver us from the hands of our foes, from the end of our enemies. And so, if you look at it, by the way, there is no, although it has been brought into battle, it is not the first time, will not be the last time where the ark is actually brought into battle, but it usually is brought from a different direction. And what I mean by that is it's not from the general. Usually it is directed by a prophet or a Kohen who decides from a religious perspective, it's time to bring down. Here, it's almost as though it was a battlefield decision. In other words, we're bringing down the big cannon here, okay? And they're putting basically all the onus on the ark. So, Vaishlach ha'am Shiloh, and so troops sent men to Shiloh. Vaisu misham et Aron Brit Adonai Tzevaot Yoshev HaKruvim, and there they brought down the Ark of the Covenant, and on top of it there are the cherubs that sit on top of it. Vesham Shnei Vnei Eli, and with them they brought the two sons of Eli, along with Aron Brit HaElohim, and they are Chofni Ufinchas. We've had them before. Do you remember who they were?
Those are Eli's sons. They interacted with Shmuel to an extent.
Right. So those are the two sons of Eli who are corrupt, who are taking a smearing off from all that which is being brought to the temple, or at least to the Mishkan. Then when they were given, they were also removing that which did not belong to them, so to speak. They were taking the best of fats and everything that should have been actually on the altar, and they're taking it for their own good. In short, they're not very scrupulous individuals. However, they are being second in charge, so to speak, or close to being first in charge, because their father, as you'll soon will learn, is very, very old. They are pretty much running it, and as the head of the Kohanim, they're the ones who are entrusted with their own. They're not just going to give it up, and so they're coming down with the Ark of the Covenant. Vahi kevo Aron Brit Adonai lamachane, and as the Ark of the Covenant enters the encampment, Vayariu Chol Yisrael teruah gedolah, the Israelites burst out into great shouting, into a huge resound relief, I guess, or some kind of an uproar, a positive uproar. Vatehom haaretz, and the whole earth vibrated. It was an incredible amount of sound. Let me just. Vaishmeu Flishtim et kol hatruah, and the Philistines heard this great yelling and all this trulala and a great noise. Vayomeru, and they said, Me kol hateruah gedolah azot. What is this great noise? B'machaneh ha'ivrim, that is coming from the campment of the Israelites. Vayed'u ki Aron Adonai ba'al machaneh, and they learned that what caused this was that the Ark of the Covenant has been brought down and now resides in the Israeli camp. Vayru haplishtim, and this frightened the Philistines. Ki amru, for they said, Ba Elohim el hamachane, now God, the presence of God, is now within the encampment. Vayamru oy lanu, they said, Oy, it is woe to us. Ki lo hayta kazot etmol shalshom, for this was not present, and now different terms of engagement. Beforehand, we were fighting people. Now they have their God with them, and now we are in trouble. Oy lanu mi yatzilenu, woe to us, who will save us? This is the Philistine speaking. Miyad ha'elohim ha'adirim ha'eleh, from the hand of these great, mighty gods. You notice that they use plural. Elehem ha'elohim ha'makim et Mitzrayim. These are the gods that struck the Egyptians bechol makah bamidbar, with all the plagues in the wilderness. So they have the story a little bit mixed up, but they nonetheless they recognize that was through God or as they see it. And this is where we have, we have self. I remember who was it that said, we always look from our own perspective, right? Self-looking glass. What was it? Our eyes, right? You're always judging from what we know, from our perspective. So they are using what they know about God or they believe, but they know that the Israelite gods are great and not to be messed with. They don't know what they're going to do. And so there were some that rounded the generals rounded everyone and told them, Hitchasku v'yula anashim pelishtim. Brace yourself and be men, O Philistines. So there are those that are trying to rowdy them and say, hey, listen, let's wake up. We'll do our best. Pena ta'avdu la ivrim, or you will become slaves to the Hebrews, kasher avdu lachem, just as they were slaves to you. Vitem lanashim venilchamtem. Let's, in other words, grow up. Let's go. Let's be men. Pucker up, but we'll try our best. The generals and are trying to muster some kind of hope, and so they listened to their generals, vaylachamu flishtim, and they decided to fight. And they came down and they fought. And once again, vaynagef Israel, vaynusu ish le'ohalav. And once again, the Israelites were smitten, and they ran back. They were routed and they ran back again and retreated back to their tents. Vathi hamaka gdola meod, and it was even a greater defeat. Vaypol me Israel 30,000 ragli. This time, 30,000 foot soldiers fell. So from 4,000, now it's to 30. However, Varon Elohim nilkach, and the ark of God was captured. Ushnev ne Eli metu, Chofni ufinchas, and the two sons of Eli were killed, Chofni ufinchas. If you remember in chapter 2, and then chapter 3, which we read last week, which remember Shmuel has this vision, and then he has to actually tell Eli that there's going to be, that God will punish his family, Eli's family, for all the corruption, and also for Eli's complacency for not only correcting his sons, but rebuking them, which he did not. And here we see suddenly this judgment of God on this family. So first off, the Chofni u'Finchas, now they are no longer part of the picture. So we know that the Kehuna is not going to pass through them. Vayaretz ish Binyamin me hama'aracha, and a Benjaminite ran from the battlefield. And this is a serious jog. This is not this is, I think, a full marathon, if not more. Vayavo Shiloh bayom hahu, and he reached all the way to Shiloh that day. Umadav keruim, and all his clothes, or his uniform is ripped, is torn. Va'adama al rosho, and he has as well some earth on his head. Anybody wants to explain what this is? What's the
mourning?
Beautiful. And his uniform is ripped, and he has a far, right? This was one of the ancient rituals, was putting dust on one's head. So obviously this is not a good sign. Vayavoni, and he arrives to Shiloh. Vehine Eli yoshev al hakiseh, yad derech mitzpah, and he found Eli sitting on a seat waiting beside the road. His ki haya libo chared al aron ha'elohim, for he was distraught. His heart was distraught on the fact that the Ark of the Covenant has been removed from Shiloh. So you can imagine, as we're reading this, and we understand that they came and they took it. This is for any of the paraphernalias to be removed from the temple would be a great. You can imagine the Kohen who was in charge of all this, that he has right now lost his control over some of the items. Which was the item? Was the Aron is no longer I'm sure the only thing he wanted was just to see it return back to its place, and then the temple is complete. So he was beside himself. He could not. He's all over the place. He's not feeling good. He's waiting for Chardai also. He's trembling. He's scared over the Aron. He wants to see the Aron return. However, here comes this person, Va'ish ba lagid ba'ir. The man enters the city, and he spreads the news of the last two battles, and even more so, what happens. He shares what happened to the ark, that it was captured by the Philistines. Vatizak kol ha'ir, and the entire city breaks out into a bitter cry. So there's literally mourning, as Philip mentioned. Vaishma Eli et kol hatzeaka, and when Eli heard the sound of the outcry, he asked, Vayomer me kol hehamon hazeh, what is the meaning of all this uproar, of all these moanings? V'haish mihar vayavo v'aged le'eli, and the man rushed, or the shaliach, whoever this runner was, he rushed over to tell Eli what has transpired. Ve'eli ben tishim u'shmona shana, and Eli right now is 98 years old. Ve'inav kama, and his eyes have been fixed, or are hard. Ve'lo yachol lirot, and he's not able to see. So he's blind. Vayomer ha'ish el Eli, and this runner tells Eli, Anochi haba min ha'ma'aracha, I'm the one who ran all the way from the battlefield. Va'ani min ha'ma'aracha nasti hayom, I fled today from the battlefield. Vayomer meha yahadavar beni, please let me know. Give me, what's the update? What transpired on the battlefield? Of course, being blind, what was Eli not able to see?
The expression on the other person's face.
Beyond that, with the description of what was this runner.
He couldn't see that he was mourning. That he was
in mourning. He heard the uproar, but he doesn't understand.
Right.
He didn't see that his clothes were ripped, and that he had the dust on his head. So along Peter, with what you say, exactly, beyond just his face, this clear sign of mourning. Otherwise, he would have known and picked it up from that. So he wants to know verbally what has transpired on the battlefield. Vayan ha'mevaser vayomer. So the bearer replied with the following news: Nas Israel lifnei Philishtim. The Israelites have fled, have retreated before the Philistines. V'gam magifa gdola hayta va'am, and there was a huge suffering, a huge slaughter within the encampment. Not only that, v'gam shnei vanecha metu, as well, amongst those that have been killed were your two sons, Chofni and Pinchas. Varon ha'Elohim nilkacha, and as well, the ark of God has been captured. So if you look at it, you look at it as a bullseye. So first there was a Magifah Gdolah, right? It includes everybody. There was a big plague, or a big slaughter. And then their two sons, who are in charge of what? They're in charge of the Aron, and the Aron is taken as well. So it's kind of from one, and he zooms right in. Vahi kehaskirot Aron Elohim, when this messenger describes to him what happened to the ark, Vaipol me'al hakiseh achoranit be'ad yad hasha'ar. From the news, he falls over backwards, and he lands on the hand, or on the he's sitting right beside the gate. Vatishaver mafrakto vayamot, and this fall, he lands apparently somewhere on his neck, on his head, and his neck breaks and he dies. Kizaken ha'ish v'chaved, for he's old and he's overweight, he's large, he's heavy. However, v'hu shafat et Israel 40 shana, but he also was the chieftain. He was, once again, shofet, hu shafat, he judged, or he directed the Israel for 40 years. This doesn't end here. This is not this. This is part of that nevuah where his family is going to be devastated. Vechalato eshet Pinchas harat lalat. Now, the daughter-in-law, the wife of Pinchas, which was one of the sons of Eli, she was pregnant, and she was in midterm. Vatishma tashmoa, and this news actually traveled to her, and she had learned what happened. El halikach haron haElohim, about how the ark of God had been captured. Umet chamia veisha, and now how her father-in-law just died from falling over and breaking his neck, and how her husband had been killed at the battlefield. Vatichra vateled, and from all of it, she panicked, and she actually was going into childbirth. Kinefchu alea tzireha, for she now had labor pain. She had contractions, and from all the stress, etc., we know it's not good. And now she is giving birth to preemie. Uchet muta, and just during her right before as she's losing consciousness and as she's about to die, v'tedaberna hanitzavot aleha, those who aided her, attended to her, called out to her, and they told her, Al tiriki ven yaladet, do not worry, do not be afraid, for you have given birth to a boy. Velo anta velo shata liba, but she did not respond or pay any attention to what they're saying. Vatikra lana'ar ichavod le'emor. However, she names the child Ichavod. We'll get to that in a second. Lemor, why? Galach chavod me'Israel, for God has removed the glory from Israel. El hilakach haron ha'Elohim, with regards to the fact that the ark has been captured, and also with regards to ve'el chamia ve'isha, that now the leaders of Israel, as it was seen then, Eli and Pinchas right now as well, that they're dead. So in other words, the leadership is all upside down. So ikavod means there is no glory. That is what the name is. So this is what she calls it. Obviously, it's a very derogatory name, in the sense of, I shouldn't say derogatory, but it's a pessimistic name. It's not a name of hope. It's a name of despair. Okay, Ichavod, there is no glory. Vatomer, and she said, Gala chavod me Israel. She repeated and she said, the glory is gone from Israel. Nilkach aron Elohim, for the ark of God has been captured and taken. And this is where chapter 4 ends. Any question?
Yes, one question. Chafni, where have we heard that name before, or have we?
Chofni, yes. So we were introduced to them in chapter 2. They were the two sons of Eli that were very corrupt.
Yeah, but aside from his sons, where else?
There are in the Torah. There's also Chofni. So a lot of the Kohanim, actually, Pinchas as well, was they renamed the same. They used the same names. It's quite interesting. Chofni, yeah. And if I just have to think a little bit, but definitely Chofni is in the Torah as well. That's a very astute remark. I will answer. I will get that to you. I'm just now. Yes, Cindy.
Why is the daughter-in-law punished as well? Like, why does she have to die?
So this is where part of, if you remember, the Nevuah was that there will be no more remnant from this family.
Mm-hmm.
We will, and that is also part of the remnants, and of course the child. Let's see where this goes. We're not even sure if the child really survives or not at this point. We just know she gave birth, but this is a premature birth. But the point is that now, even if this child survives, what is his legacy? That we know that the names tell you about what the essence of the child is. So throughout the Torah, God changes Avraham to Avram to Avraham, right? Sarai to Sarah. The name denotes all the names of the tribes are the characteristics that really follow them along. And what's the characteristic of this heir?
Well, it's
No,
it's very
glory.
negative.
No
Very
glory.
negative. He's not going to inherit. He's not going to inherit the.
Exactly. This
Kohanim.
kid is
He's
bringing
it.
no glory. That's the kid's name, no glory. Or if you want to say, in other words, this kid's name is disgrace.
He's the end of the line.
In another way of saying it. So can you imagine? That's the legacy is disgrace. That's great points in these. But yeah, that was part of the punishment, and now we see Shmuel's nevuah coming to be. So there are two things in play if you want to look at it. Number one is the general geopolitical scene of what's happening in Israel at that time, and as well you also see on the back end you see Shmuel's nevuah, which he actually told Eli, and that's coming true as well. So that follows the last couple of verses, the ideas that we learn in chapter 3, that he was revered, Shmuel was revered. For whatever came out of his mouth, that is what happened. And now we see that this is true. And we kind of see it cocooning within the story of the war with Philistines. Yes, Peter.
A little off topic. If you look at the word Aaron Ha-Elohim,
Yeah.
there's a sign on top of the He, a double dot.
Yeah.
And throughout the text, for instance, on top of the Mem, the line above,
Yeah.
there's, what are those Nikadim?
So Nick, so excellent point, and I'll let. So here is what we are talking about, right? If I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
You're referring to these.
Yep.
So you're asking the right person, Peter, because these are the trup. These are the notes.
Oh, these are the musical notes.
These are the musical notation. You have one here. You have one here.
Yeah.
You have one here,
Yep.
etc., etc., etc. So these are actually the musical notations, which are the same musical notations as are in the Torah. However, they're sung. You've been enough to show you know that they're sung a little bit differently, although all the same properties remain the same, whether you sing them in the tune of Torah reading, Haftarah, the Torah reading in Rosh Hashanah is a little bit has a different tune. Eicha has a different tune. Even in Purim, you'll see that it's read in a different tune, but the trop still remain the same. And the trop, which are the musical notations, are there for a couple of reasons. Number one, the simplistic. It's much nicer to sing this than if you came to Shul and I'd be going Vayomer Hashem El Moshe Lemor Daber El Bnei. You know, after about 5 minutes, you'd clue up. So obviously, singing is much more pleasant. But there's many more levels to that. We have to understand that they had to read out the Torah as well in great crowds. You can't yell. You know this. If you yell after a couple of minutes, you lose your voice, and it doesn't carry as much as if you properly sing. So musically, it resonant, right? There's the resonance, and much greater crowds. Of course, they do not have amplification, but this was much. The experts who were able to read would be able to last much longer and also reach greater distances. So that's another one. But even more so, the Torah trop, unlike our musical, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, or Do, Re, Mi, Fa, Sol, La, Ti, they are grouped in groups. It's not only just one note. Sometimes it's a single note. Sometimes you have notes that come in a pair of two. Sometimes it's three, and then sometimes you can also pull out within the set of, let's say, 4. You can only use 1 or 2, etc. And the reason why is because the notes are also the punctuation of old. So let me show you. We'll demonstrate. So if you notice when I read, I actually read where I follow the notes.
Right.
So I'm going to show you how it's split. That is the way the pasuk is split. It's split up into 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 sections.
Mhm.
Vatikra la na'ar, and she called the lad or the boy that was born, Ichavod lemor. She called him Ichavod for the following reason. Galah chavod me'Israel. The glory has departed from Israel. Why? El hilakach aron ha'Elohim. For the capture of God's ark, ve'el chamia veisha, and also for what had happened to her father-in-law and her husband. And in this pasuk, it's a little bit easy, but now imagine what the Torah is. The Torah is a book of rules as well. Not so much in the Nevi'im, but coming up next week, not this week, but next week, Yitro, and even more so the following week, which is Mishpatim, which has a bunch of laws. Imagine if I tell you if I just wrote straight out in a sentence, if one steals, not kill him,
Mhm.
right? If one steals, not kill him. I just put those words. If one steals, not kill him, right?
Yep.
So how do you interpret that? If one steals, not kill him. That's what I put down. What does that sentence mean?
Depends on the comma.
So I put nothing. I put if one steals, not kill him, right? I put all those words, if one steals, not kill him. 6 words.
Don't kill a sentient being.
Okay, that's the way. Why? Because you're saying if one steals, not kill him. In other words, if
Yeah.
one steals,
Don't kill him.
punishment is not to kill him, but maybe we learn the punishment later on what it is, right?
Yep.
How about if you read it this way? If one steals not, kill him. In other words, if somebody doesn't steal, then you have to kill him.
Uh-huh. Yep.
So the musical notation would be, of course, we know that if one steals, we don't kill him. So the music would be, if one steals, not kill him. The not would be, with regards to kill, it would not be attached to the steal.
Yep.
So it's a very deep purpose, aside from all the, surface reasons, beautiful, and it's easier to last, louder, etc., all that stuff. It really is there to give meaning and to make sure.
When were these notations introduced into the writing of the Torah?
So they'll never be in the Torah. I have to know them by heart.
Whoa.
So next time you go to the Torah, when I read that I have to know them all by heart. Not only that, let me just add one more level of complexity. Wherever the note is, that is the proper pronunciation.
Okay.
So in this case, it's la na'ar. It's not la na'ar or la na'ar.
Got it.
It's la na'ar.
Yeah.
Lemor. It's not lemor.
Mm-hmm.
Understand? So it's both for grammar and also for properly saying the words. Sometimes, by the way, there are multiple notes on words. It's usually 2, and it breaks. There's 2 syllables on that word where you're supposed to say.
Wow.
So it's a very complex, but it's actually very simplistic in its approach and its system. But it's unbelievably complex in the meaning and the way that it is. It's way more direct even than commas and periods and other punctuation, because it also is word specific. It answers. It helps answer who, what, when, where, why. All these things is what it does. It literally breaks down musically and grammatically of what belongs to what.
That's amazing.
Next time you get an aliyah, God willing, I'll point it out and you'll see that. So what I do is I have to know, when I learn for a parasha or whatever it might be,
Right.
I learn from beginning to end. I need to know all this stuff. Where there are no periods in the Chumash, in the Torah. I have to know where a pasuk ends, and that helps again with music also. That is also another level, by the way, is that it's much easier to remember things via music
Yes.
than it is just to
Yeah.
read.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's also how they learned to remember it. Don't forget, they didn't have a book that they can follow, right? They used to be special people who used to know it all by heart. And part of that is musically, it's much easier to remember it than just if there's no no end, no uniqueness to particular verses. So that is also that's really my expertise of when I lead a service, when I read the Torah.
Thanks, Yossi.
Okay, great
Yeah.
question. Any
Okay.
other?
Yeah,
other
not a great question, but ve'el chamia ve'isha. Ma
Yeah.
ze cham-
Chamia is father-in-law.
Okay,
Yeah, it's not Chamin, it's not Sholent. Okay. I thought that was no. It's Chamiha is her father-in-law. Veisha. You see? Oh, here's another one. Do you see this dot right there?
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
if you know what in Hebrew, what does Isha mean?
woman.
Woman.
Veisha, right?
Mhm.
No, this is Ish. This means Ish.
Allah.
Ish Shela, her man. Isha. So it's actually it's a hard hey. Isha.
Yeah.
Her man.
Yeah.
The man that belongs to her husband.
Oh, for goodness sake.
But that's grammar. But that's what that dot is.
That is so cool.
That's the ish ha hishala. It's a shorten. It's like we have
Yeah.
can't with a little thing. This is almost kind of it's a possessive hey.
Yeah.
It's her thing.
Yeah, there are words like that.
Yeah, there are many words like that. Yeah. So it's not to be confused with a tough and suf, or let's say a shin and a sin and a kaf and a chaf and a bet and a vet that have a dot. You'll notice that there's a dot here in the nun. There's a dot here in the gimel.
Yep.
There's a dot in the yud, and there's also a dot in the lamed. And I'm
Yeah.
not going to get into it, but these are all it's all along the same lines. It's all grammatical. But this is not a different sound of a gimel, a gimel, or this is a yud that sounds like a j or something. No, it's letters, but it's grammatical. Okay, but the hey is particularly important because it represents ish shela, her husband. Okay,
Super. Thank you.
all right, everyone.
Very
Yeah,
good. Yeah.
right.
Let me
Thank you, Yossi.
thank you, everyone. I want to wish everyone Shavua Tov. God willing, we'll be back here next week. We'll continue the story, and if you do want, I know Peter went a little bit. If you can't wait until next week, please be my guest to read ahead. And but if you do read ahead, I expect you to have some input. So that'd be great. Thank you for your insights and
Thank you
for
very
sharing.
much.
All the best.
God bless.
Thank you. It is-